I. The unity of the way and virtue. Virtue is the heartbeat of tradition. Woven inseparably with the way, it forms the living essence of a civilization that has endured for 5,000 years. Beneath every school of thought, whether philosophical, mystical, or contemplative, lies this singular pursuit, the cultivation of virtue. In ancient wisdom, the act of obtaining was synonymous with virtue. But what is truly obtained? It is the assimilation of cosmic truth, the way itself. To align with this truth is to embody virtue. To stray from it is to fall into moral absence. As one timeless saying declares, "The way within me is called virtue." Virtue, then, is not external. It is the way made inward, the cosmic order reflected in the soul. Virtue flows from the way. It is the way made visible, expressed through its layered standards and subtle demands. To assimilate the truth of the cosmos is to become one who obtains, a person of deep virtue, a bearer of the way. Since time immemorial, the way and virtue have been one. To walk the way is to refine virtue. To refine virtue is to walk the way. They are one yet not one, two yet not two, inseparable, indivisible, eternal. This truth was beautifully distilled by the ancient sage who wrote, "The fullness of great virtue follows only the way." In other words, the highest virtue is nothing less than the way in motion, the living breath of cosmic order. From its first breath, traditional civilization has fused cosmic order and moral virtue into a single thread. In its earliest texts, we read, "The dance of opposites reveals the way. To follow it is goodness. To fulfill it is human nature." The great soul aligns its virtue with heaven and earth. As heaven moves with relentless force, the noble rise through tireless striving. As earth yields and bears, the noble carry the world with deep and generous virtue. Another ancient voice declares, "Sincerity is heaven's way. To live sincerely is humanity's way." The decree of heaven is called nature. To follow nature is the way. To cultivate the way is the art of teaching. Each line is a testament to the unity of principle and virtue. One might say that this civilization is not merely a culture. It is a moral cosmos, shaped by the harmony of truth and goodness. Traditional civilization breathes with the spirit of moral unity. Whether born of native wisdom or shaped through the indigenized echoes of foreign contemplative paths, every major tradition converges upon the same truth. The way and virtue are one. This vision extends from the soul to the state. A timeless passage proclaims, "Cultivate the self, and virtue becomes authentic. Cultivate the family, and virtue becomes abundant. Cultivate the community, and virtue endures. Cultivate the state, and virtue flourishes. Cultivate the world, and virtue becomes universal." When society is shaped by such alignment, the way flows freely, and virtue overflows, nurturing compassion, harmony, and peace beneath the heavens. This is the shared dream of sages, mystics, and seekers alike, and the enduring horizon toward which traditional civilization has journeyed for millennia. In the dawn of civilization, the sages, those luminous figures who walked in harmony with the Great Way, shaped the moral landscape of history. From the earliest mythic rulers to the wise architects of order and justice, they were honored as bearers of virtue. The worlds they built were among the most radiant societies ever known. But time has drawn its veil. The ancient records have crumbled, the legends grown faint. For those living now, the beauty of those ages, their noble ideals, their exalted vision of life, has become difficult to perceive, harder still to feel. And yet a glimmer remains. In the legacy of one enduring figure, whose wisdom laid the foundation for a classical civilization, we glimpse the contours of a vanished moral cosmos, a world where virtue once ruled and the way was law. Among the sages of the ancient world, one figure rises as a luminous statesman, a profound thinker, and a master of moral vision. His philosophy, aligning virtue with heaven, honoring virtue to protect the people, and illuminating virtue while tempering justice, became the moral compass of an entire civilization. He taught with urgency, virtue must be revered. One must honor virtue within. Virtue must be swiftly upheld. Only by awakening the power of virtue could the mandate of heaven endure. He saw clearly, heaven shows no favoritism. It sides only with virtue. In his eyes, morality was not a social convention. It was the root of personal dignity and the soul of the state. Thus his age placed moral cultivation at the heart of governance. The people revered the virtue of their ancestral kings, and in their songs and verses they praised the noble character of those who tilled the land, refined their conduct, and raised the nation through moral strength. One ancestral ruler's benevolent reign was held as divine. He dwells above, radiant in heaven. His spirit was seen as shining, a celestial presence watching over the people. The virtues of these ancient sovereigns became living models for generations. The philosophy of ruling through virtue was not a policy, it was the pulse of the age. In that society, moral achievement and character were life's highest ideals, embraced by nobles and commoners alike. Even the humblest aspired to virtue, upheld it, exalted it, sometimes placing it above life itself. To die for righteousness became a sacred code. The entire society breathed in a moral atmosphere. In the earliest texts of that classical age, the vision was already clear. Cultivate the self, harmonize the household, govern the state, and bring peace to the world. Their conscious devotion to virtue laid the bedrock for the unfolding of a civilization rooted in moral clarity. Among the lasting legacies of this ancient sage was his masterwork, the harmonization of ritual and music. Drawing from the ceremonial wisdom of earlier dynasties, he refined and restructured tradition, rendering it precise, coherent, and deeply attuned to the needs of his time. What emerged was not merely a set of customs, but a complete cultural architecture, a system of social order, political design, moral guidance, and educational practice. This living framework came to be known as the rites of Zhou, a canon of civilization shaped by virtue and vision. The ritual music culture of this age was hailed as a model for all who followed, a summit of ancient refinement. One great teacher looked back and declared, "Zhou drew from the wisdom of its predecessors, and its culture bloomed in radiant form. I follow Zhou." Ritual is virtue made visible. Through the refinement of ceremonial order, the ancient sage shaped the rhythms of society, guiding each person to live with integrity and in harmony with the heavens. One modern scholar observed that the transformation of institutions in that age sought to weave ruler and subject, noble and commoner, into a single moral body. This was the true heart of the sage's design. Another great thinker saw in this tradition a civilization where virtue stood in place of religion, a society rooted not in dogma but in ethics. His vision echoed that of his contemporary. Together they revealed the essence of this classical culture, a world where ritual was not mere form but the architecture of moral life. The sage called for illuminating virtue and tempering punishment, for rule by moral example, for a civilization shaped through ritual and music. This was the dream that stirred the heart of a later philosopher, the vision of a society led by virtue and harmonized through ritual. The longevity of this classical civilization, spanning 8 centuries, was no accident. It was the fruit of a society rooted in the sage's vision, cultivated through generations of moral clarity and principled governance. In such fertile soil, a harvest of ethical brilliance was inevitable. From this ground rose a host of moral exemplars and civic pillars, individuals of profound learning, refined virtue, and unwavering courage. In daily life, they were gracious and composed, living testaments to the moral ideal. In times of upheaval, they stood firm, restoring harmony, reforming institutions, and guiding the nation with wisdom and resolve. In the royal court and across the federated states, their gifts were unmistakable. These were the architects of virtue, statesmen, reformers, and sages whose deeds shaped the course of history. Around them gathered communities of kindred spirits, men of noble conduct who shared their pursuit of meaning and radiated the quiet brilliance of the moral life. It was this constellation of ethical minds and principled hearts that laid the foundation for the moral character of a civilization. Their virtues grew brighter with time, and their spirit remains undimmed. The moral grandeur of that classical age still stirs the soul, a legacy of virtue that echoes through the corridors of history. As the shining exemplar of his age's moral elite, this ancient sage radiated a character so profound that the world looked to him in reverence. One great teacher once reflected, ideals such as cultivating the self to bring peace to others, cultivating the self to bring peace to the people, and bestowing generosity upon the many, were so lofty that even the legendary sovereigns of myth might not have reached them. But this sage did. Through the quiet force of his character, the clarity of his moral vision, the depth of his thought, the brilliance of his talent, and the legacy of his deeds, he offered a living ideal to his people. In doing so, he gave civilization one of its most enduring gifts, a model of virtue to aspire to, a soul-shaped standard for generations to follow.
This ancient sage and the age he illuminated offered a living testament to the unity of cosmic principle and moral virtue. It was a golden expression of ethical civilization before the rise of later philosophical schools. As the backbone of tradition, the moral lineage that followed grew from this very soil. This spirit is more than a cultural trait. It is the value soul of a civilization. It reflects the ultimate longing and ideal horizon of a people and their culture. It is both the origin and the return point of a civilization's way of living and way of thinking. Its influence runs deep, shaping the inner architecture of the collective mind and the outer structure of cultural life. It laid the foundation stones of tradition and pointed the way forward. That way is moral civilization. Its defining feature is the pursuit of the way and the pursuit of virtue.
The Book of Changes, hailed as the first among the classics, is more than a cosmological text. It is the moral fountainhead of tradition. At its heart lies not prediction, but principle. It is a scripture of virtue. One ancient reflection tells us the sages composed this book in harmony with virtue and in accord with righteousness, to exhaust the principles of things, to fulfill human nature, and to reach destiny. In other words, they wrote not to divine the future, but to align humanity with the moral order of the cosmos, to establish ritual, to explore the nature of being, and to understand heaven's decree. Another passage reveals that the primal sage who created the trigrams did so to convey the virtue of the divine and to reflect the inner patterns of all things. These symbols were not mere diagrams, they were mirrors of the moral universe, maps of the soul of the world. In every line and figure, the sages encoded the secrets of existence. They established images to express meaning, created hexagrams to reveal the heart's intent, and added commentary to complete the message. These were not acts of abstraction, they were acts of revelation. What they revealed was the mandate of heaven and the virtue that flows from it. As one line declares, "The book is the means by which sages exalt virtue and extend their work. Through it, they taught the conduct that aligns with the way, elevated the human spirit, and guided generations toward a life of moral clarity and cosmic belonging." At its essence, the Book of Changes is a choreography of virtue. Without moral depth, its wisdom remains sealed. In the ancient world, those who practiced divination were held to the highest standard, not merely of skill, but of soul. They were elders of integrity, revered for their character. Before casting the hexagrams, they would burn incense, still the heart, and seek resonance with the divine. The unrighteous were barred from the sacred task. This book does not merely predict, it instructs. It teaches how to read the shifting patterns of life and how to respond with virtue. It shows how to rise from hardship and how to carry goodness forward in times of ease. One passage reveals, "Treading is the foundation of virtue, humility its guiding hand, return its origin, constancy its strength, decrease its refinement, increase its generosity, hardship its discernment, the well its grounding, compliance its regulation." Each hexagram is more than a symbol, it is a mirror of the moral world. Each reflects a condition of life, and each calls for a response rooted in virtue. Only through moral clarity can one align with the book, walk in the way, and meet life's changes with wisdom. Heaven's order and human affairs are not separate, they are one. The Book of Changes is a profound testament to the moral unity at the heart of tradition. As the heavens shift and human virtue wanes, the Book of Changes grows dim to modern eyes. For those without moral grounding, its symbols remain silent. The way of heaven cannot be glimpsed by those who walk apart from it. At best, they may extract fragments, clever techniques, ornamental knowledge, but never the living truth. Only great virtue gives rise to great wisdom, and this wisdom is not cunning or calculation. It is the luminous insight that sees into the heart of the cosmos. It is the clarity that comes not from intellect alone, but from moral resonance with the way. Without great virtue, great wisdom is forever out of reach. This is not merely a belief, it is the very architecture of traditional thought. One luminous line from the Book of Changes declares, "The dance of yin and yang is the way. To follow it is goodness. To fulfill it is human nature." This insight reveals a profound truth, that goodness arises from harmony with cosmic rhythm, and that this rhythm finds its living form in human nature.
From its earliest lines, the Book of Changes carries within it the soul of tradition, a civilization rooted in humanity and shaped by virtue. The book is more than a text, it is a revelation of the moral essence of culture, a mirror of the human spirit aligned with the way.
2. The undivided heart of the way. The heart of traditional civilization beats with a call to inner transcendence, a path distinct from the outward gaze of Western thought. It teaches that only through the refinement of the inner life can one reach the realm of the way. This is not a casual pursuit. It is a lifelong discipline, a deep cultivation of moral character and spiritual essence. Such inner work is the threshold and the key. It is what determines whether transcendence becomes real. The birth of ideal character, the elevation of human existence, the leap into wisdom, the flowering of emotion, and the luminous beauty of virtue all arise from within. This is the return to origin, the path of true becoming. For the ethical tradition, it is the journey to become a noble soul, a person of virtue, a sage who bears moral responsibility and cares for the world. For the contemplative tradition, it is the journey to inner peace and self-transcendence, to become a divine one, a perfected one, a true one. For the awakening tradition, it is the journey to deep realization, to become an awakened one, a bodhisattva, a Buddha. Though their teachings differ and their forms diverge, the three great traditions of civilization rest upon a shared foundation, the cultivation of the moral heart and spiritual nature. The practices of refining the heart, nurturing the nature, and illuminating the mind to behold one's true essence are woven through each path. It was the Ming Dynasty sage Zhou who saw through the surface and named the truth. The differences among the ethical, contemplative, and awakening traditions are but names. What they share is the heart, the original heart. To keep the original heart unclouded is their common aim. To point directly to the human heart is their shared way. In this insight, Zhou unveiled the root of unity within the moral cosmos, the path of inner cultivation.
To Wang Yangming, the luminous mind of the Ming Dynasty, the heart was not merely a seat of thought. It was the moral core of the cosmos. He called it innate knowing, a moral awareness that is the very essence of the universe, the source from which all things unfold. One ancient voice declared, "By walking in benevolence, one comes to know heaven, a truth that links moral action to cosmic ascent." Another taught, "To exhaust the heart is to know nature, and thus know heaven," revealing that the full cultivation of the heart unveils the goodness of being and the order of the divine. A third proclaimed, "Sincerity is the way of heaven," affirming that moral integrity is not merely human virtue, but the very rhythm of the cosmos. In this tradition, benevolence, goodness, and sincerity are not just ethical ideals, they are the language of heaven. The cosmic order speaks through virtue. Thus, the idea that morality is the essence of reality, the vision of moral ontology, was already stirring in the earliest teachings. Wang Yangming's philosophy of the heart carried this vision forward. Drawing from the fusion of earlier traditions, he revealed a universe where heaven, earth, and humanity are bound by virtue, a moral cosmos born of the heart. In this revelation, he lifted the moral spirit of tradition to its highest summit.
To Wang Yangming, the key to unlocking the mysteries of the cosmos was not found in the stars, but in the heart. True understanding begins with inward reflection, through the search for one's moral awareness, the innate knowing that dwells within. The human being is a microcosm, and the original goodness of human nature is in harmony with the nature of the universe. It resonates with cosmic truth. To gaze into the moral heart is to gaze into the cosmos. To know one's true nature is to know the universe. Through inner vision, the heart is unveiled, and within it lie the laws of heaven, the structure of the universe, the rhythms of nature, and the essence of all things. When the original purity of the heart is restored, one enters the realm where heaven and humanity are one. Thus, Wang Yangming declared, "Outside the heart there is no thing. Outside the heart there is no event. Outside the heart there is no principle. Truth lives in the original nature of the heart. The way of heaven pulses within. The way is sought within, the way is found within. To walk the way is to refine the heart. To refine the heart is to walk the way."
In the end, the truth is simple and radiant. The way is virtue, and virtue is the way, two names for one reality. The way is the heart, and the heart is the way, undivided, inseparable, whole. This is the essence of tradition. It is the breath of a civilization that sees no gap between cosmos and conscience, between truth and goodness. It is what makes this heritage vast, luminous, and endlessly captivating.